Hey guys, it's Yishan here. Before we get into the video, I wanted to remind you guys that if you enjoy my content, to please consider subscribing. Also, your boy is now partnered with TCG Player, so if you are planning on buying Yu-Gi-Oh singles or sealed product and want to support the channel, then please consider using my TCG Player affiliate link in the description below. Hey guys, today I wanted to talk to you guys about something that I've been wanting to talk about for a while. And that is how you can gain an advantage in your Yu-Gi-Oh duels by knowing what to ask judges, right? And this is something everyone can do, and it's just about knowing the rules. And I think there are a lot of misconceptions about what kinds of questions judges can and cannot answer. So I just want to say that this is not cheating. It's just understanding the rules and understanding what kinds of questions you can ask judges to gain information about the game. So, for example, have you ever heard that judges can't answer hypothetical questions? Well, there's some truth to that, but it's not really true. You can get judges to answer a lot of questions about the game you're in. So I want to start off with the basics. What kinds of questions should you be asking so that the judge can answer you? And what kinds of questions should you try to avoid so that, or judges are much less likely to answer? Because there is a lot of gray area. So let's talk about the questions that you should ask a judge, especially if it helps you. Okay, the first thing you can ask about is the activation legality. This is pretty black and white. If you are asking about, can I activate this card, the judge has to answer you, and if they don't, I would recommend that you appeal. There are some judges that still think, oh, that's a hypothetical, because this is more of a policy thing and less of an actual rulings thing. But if you're asking, can I activate this card legally, the judge should answer. You can even ask, like, even if the card's not, it's not been activated yet, you just say, like, okay, this card in my extra deck, I'm under draw right now. Can I use this effect? Yes, no, maybe so, right? Whatever they answer, they let you know. And they should answer in a way that doesn't reveal private information as well. That's important. So there's no drawback to you except for maybe your opponent knowing that you might have a certain card, right? But if you don't know if you can activate the card, it's best to try to avoid a warning. So just ask, and they should answer. And if they don't answer, appeal. Okay. The second thing you can ask about is game mechanics. Okay. And game mechanics, what does that mean? Well, basically, how I interpret this, and we'll look at some examples later, but how I interpret this is the rules text on a card, how cards resolve. So you can actually ask hypothetical questions about game mechanics. Okay, we're going to go through some examples. I'm going to sort of analyze them and tell you what I think they mean. Okay, the last thing is card text, and this is important because sometimes you might not know the exact text of a card your opponent has. You can ask for that text as long as you can sufficiently describe the card so that there's no confusion. The judge or the opponent has to provide some way to give it to you. And then if you know the card text, you can use that card text to ask about the game mechanics itself. And so we'll look into some examples there. But these are the three things. You want to avoid asking, if I do this, what will happen? Questions. Those will not be answered very likely, especially if you ask it like that. So don't ask, if I activate this card, what will happen? Okay, but I think it's really helpful to just look at some examples, and I'll show you what I mean. Okay, so this is about activation legality. This is pretty straightforward, but I just want to get this out of the way. So Duelist A has a face-up Beatrix, Lady of the Eternal on the field that currently has its effects negated by infinite impermanence. Duelist B has 3 or more spell cards in their graveyard. During Duelist B's main phase, they ask for a judge. They say, can I activate this Widow Anchor on this Beatrix, Lady of the Eternal? Actually, even ask, can I take control of it? It's not even, can I activate it? But the judge, seeing that this activation would be illegal, reminds them, no, you can't activate this card. And so this sort of protects the game state, and it's not considered coaching because it's trying to protect the game state, right? So if you can explain your question in a way that's about activation legality, like you're trying to protect the game state, the judges are much, much more inclined to answer. I want to take a look at another example, actually. This is another question that I was sort of surprised that they said judges could answer, but apparently they can. He's asking about this Sky Striker maneuver afterburners, right? And the duelist is basically asking in this example, if I use this on his monster, but it doesn't get destroyed so the Titan can sort of protect itself, can I still destroy one spell and trap on the field? Now, this is a very hypothetical question. In fact, it's quite hypothetical, but look at what Konami says about this. Without revealing the card in question or giving a yes or no answer, So the judge is just going to tell you basically what this is saying is the judge is going to just explain to you the problem solving card text. So they're going to say, okay, they're going to look at the card and say, well, this has a then conjunction, right? So then conjunctions means if you don't successfully do the first part, you don't do the second part. And that's what they'll explain. They won't say they won't answer yes, they won't answer no. They'll just give you the rule. Right, they'll just give you the rule associated with it. So this is a pretty hypothetical question, but what Konami is telling me here is that if you're asking about the rules of the game, judges also have to answer. You can sort of frame any question, for example, in a way. And we'll get to a question. They have an example where they say the judge can't answer, but I think the judge would be very, very inclined to answer if you framed your question in a way that it was about rules and activation legality. It's all about framing your question, right? So let's take a look. Let's take a look at a question that that Konami says should not be answered. Okay. Let's say this. So Duelist A, this is more of the Beatrice Widow Anchor imperm example. So your Duelist A has a face of Beatrice. Duelist B has a set infinite impermanence and a Widow Anchor. Blah 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 blah. It's Duelist B's turn. Duelist B calls for a judge. It's the important part and shows him the card in question. He has the imperm and the Widow Anchor, and she asks if she would be able to use Widow Anchor on Beatrice after infinite impermanence resolves, right? So this is a very hypothetical question, right? This is after this card resolves, can I use this card? There's like 2 steps in the future. The problem is if the judge answers this question, it could seem like their answer is not just about the rules and it is sort of helping, you know, a player, right? But how would I ask this question if I was trying to get an answer, if I didn't know? Well, I would say, hey judge, I have this card in my hand and I was wondering, can you know, first you activate about activation legality, right? So this is a great thing. You first say, can I target a card with this that has its effects already negated, right? There you go. I'm asking about Widow Anchor. I'm saying, can I target a card that already has its effects negated? And the judge, it's activation legality. So they're very, very inclined to answer. If they don't, I would recommend an appeal. This is a sort of a gray area. Be saying, you know, can I activate this card? And the judge would say, well, I mean, it's activation legality. I'm supposed to answer. So they would say, no, you couldn't do that. And then he'd ask another question. Let's say, for example, I don't understand this, this problem solving card text on Widow Anchor, for example. If I don't negate the monster's effect, do I still get to take it? Or how does this, if I don't do the first part, do I still do the second part? And the judge would have to answer because, again, it's about game mechanics, right? So you can actually, you know, then they can tell you, well, actually, if the monster's effect is already negated, you can't negate it again, so it won't take the monster, right? And so, as you can see here, we've sort of gotten the answer that we wanted from the judge. We just had to ask the right questions, right? So this is what I'm saying. Judges can actually answer you a lot of things. You know, for example, if you're afraid of opponent's card, you don't know exactly what it does. You don't remember the conjunctions. You don't know what conjunctions do. Like you say, judge or opponent, can you tell me the text on, you know, this card? I don't know. Let's say Ultimate Conductor Tyranno. I don't really know what the card is. Just, you know, Ultimate Conductor Tyranno. So this, okay, let's pull up the text for Ultimate Conductor Tyranno. And then you ask the judge, you know, you ask the judge about Ultimate Conductor Tyranno's destroy effect. He says, Judge, do you know, can you help me understand this conjunction here? If the monster, you know, if you do this conjunction and this, what happens, right? So as what I'm basically saying is frame your questions in the right way. You can almost get anything you want answered. Just try not to frame it in a hypothetical way. Try to avoid the word if. That's what I say. Try to avoid the word if. If you can avoid the word if in your question, it's pretty good. Try to frame it in activation legality or about the rules of the game. And then, of course, you can always ask judges about card text and that sort of thing. So I hope this sort of helped you guys a little bit. This is something I learned and I use it to my advantage sometimes. You know, it helps you, like, before you make a play, you're like, can I even do this? Will this even work? This is a good time to sort of ask a judge about that. As long as you frame your question the right way, they're very likely to answer. If they don't answer your question and you're asking about activation legality or rules text, just calmly and politely say, you know, I understand where you're coming from, judge, but I do believe that you actually can answer questions about activation legality and game mechanics, as it says in the policy. So I would like to appeal, please. And you know, you're sort of giving your reasoning. So when they go and visit the head judge, they'll say they're appealing because of this. And, you know, the head judge will take their time and look at your case. But, you know, it doesn't hurt to appeal, especially if you think you might be right. So I hope you guys learned something. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know what kinds of questions you might ask your judges in the future. And until next time, guys, I'll see you guys in the next video.